We have just had our first ever Q&A by the devs of Suicide Squad Killer Justice League. So in this video, I'm going to take a look at some of the questions asked, and more importantly, how the devs answered. So this Q&A was held in the Discord. A few days ago, they did put out a call for questions. They've been gathering them up, and today they've gone through and answered a few they feel happy to answer. So these are the 6 gents we have answering the questions. We have Derek, Gaz, Kane, Ian, Johnny, and Axel. If Axel looks familiar for the Division players out there, he's actually the original design director for the Division 1. So let's get into the questions. Wow, that's a lot of reactions. This is just everyone saying hi. We've got Johnny, Derek, Ian, Axel, lots of hellos. Where is the first question in here? There we go. So Vigilant, was there any more above that? No. First up we have the Vigilant Cat. What was the funnest part of designing the squad members for the devs? They're very unique and fun, and I'm super excited to meet them. Axel jumps in on this one. Thanks for the question and the kind words. We wanted to make sure each character's traversal was as unique as their respective personalities, and that's why they also occupy different game spaces during combat. You will usually find Deadshot hovering over the battlefield, picking his shots and swooping in for a shield harvest or a juggle kill. Harley occupies the mid-fight space, swinging through the field and grappling her way out of dangerous situations. Boomerang is the closest to the ground and much more up close and personal. Shark presents a mix of up close and personal, but his super leaps and air dashes let him swim over the battlefield as well. All of this presented us with a pretty unique challenge insofar as making sure that each enemy type and encounter type presents different challenges for each squad member, just based on the nature of how each squad member's traversal works. That was a really fun challenge for us to solve, and it made designing these characters all the more exciting. Then Ian jumps in, thank you for the kind words. Behind the scenes there is a lot going on as we only have a few weeks away from launch. We are juggling hundreds of live grenades while going over Niagara Falls in a barrel. But don't worry, we're all good and had a lot of fun making this behemoth of a game. I have fond memories from early on in the project when we were developing the story. The squad have such different personalities. There are a lot of natural conflicts that create moments of tension, drama, and laughter. At the start of the game, Deadshot is very straight to the point. He wants to get the job done as efficiently as possible. Harley isn't taking anything seriously. She's on her own path and doesn't want to be second fiddle anymore. Shark is happy to be part of a team. He is gullible, which the other squad members play upon. Boomerang doesn't really know what's going on and doesn't want to risk his neck for anybody. They start out not trusting each other and want to get out of the situation they are in as quickly as possible, but they continue through the story, they start to develop a bond and their relationships change. Boomerang doesn't really know what's going on though. Axel, poor Boomerang. He can never catch a break, but he sure can catch a boomerang. Anyway, next question. Probably a good idea. Next up, a question from AOK8. I've heard a few developers, Jacket mainly, mention about the build possibilities in the game. Could you guys elaborate more on the possibilities of the builds for the characters? Axel jumps in again. I have to say, this is a part of the game that really interests me. I played the alpha and I also played the preview build, and the build crafting in this game is something to be excited for. That is a most excellent question. Where to start? Well, first of all, when we designed the game, player choice and player freedom was one of our core design philosophies. We really wanted you to feel you can make each character your own and build it to suit your playstyle. But if you take a leap and really play into the gear, you can find some truly crazy powerful combinations. At launch, we're looking at hundreds of possible combinations and permutations for builds across our 4 characters. This is something we're adding a lot in post-launch. We're not supposed to talk about that today though, but I'm really excited for you all to see the cool stuff we got cooking. They are cooking. They are cooking. When it comes to build construction, we have quite a few elements to consider to be core parts. First and foremost, we have the gear and our 8 loadout slots. Then we have our afflictions, each developed by Poison Ivy using a DC character's powers: Deep Freeze, Diablo Blaze, Livewire Bolt, and Venom Frenzy. Afflictions can be applied to your melee weapon and later on in the game to your grenades too. Then we have each character's talent tree. This is the backbone of each character's playstyle. Harley is very acrobatic and loves explosions, and her talent tree reflects this. Deadshot is highly precise and proficient with his weapons, so you'll find lots of crit talents and counter talents. Shark is our powerhouse character, so you'll find lots of ways of dominating the enemy with his powerful melee strikes in his talent tree. Finally, Boomerang is our trickster. He is the most all-round character, but there's a lot of talents that leverage his variability and fast traversal to quickly close the range to enemies then quickly get back out to mid to long range. Then we have the character's traversal mechanics, plus their traversal attacks and suicide strikes, which all have their own flavor for each character. Wow, Axel has written essays here. Then we have each character's weapon loadout. Each character have 3 weapon types that they are proficient in. From our 6 weapon types: assault rifles, pistols, sniper rifles, shotguns, SMGs, and heavy weapons, which are miniguns and LMGs. That's a long way of saying there is a lot of depth for you to explore, especially endgame, and lots of different ways to master the game and change the way you play the game based on how you customize your character. That's a lot of information. Just take a moment, let it soak in. We don't want to spoil the exploration of builds in the game too much, which I think is fair, but I think we can at least mention a few early endgame builds favorites that are making their rounds within the dev team. The slow-mo crits is one, where you use 2 specific items as openers: the Great Suspender, a melee weapon to launch enemies into the air in slow motion, paired with the Slow and Steady Grenade that launches enemies up in the air in slow motion, but does no damage. The Turkey Shoot firearm is a great finisher for this build, since it does guaranteed crit hits to enemies in slow motion. This is an especially powerful build in co-op, where one can focus on setting up enemies and one can focus on burning them down with damage while they're all caught in slow motion. There's also a boomerang talent that sends enemies up in slow motion on melee hits. It's worth keeping an eye out for that one. Then there is some debate around additional items to make this build really shine. Some go for Dr. Crits, an item that regenerates shield on crits, and some go for Hit and Run, an item that gives traversal attack resource on crit hits. For players who want to swap out the Turkey Shoot firearm, they could lean into the Live Wire Bolt Affliction instead, as a way of getting guaranteed crits to happen while enemies are in slow motion, and swap in the Super Spreader firearm, which spreads any active affliction on a kill to nearby enemies. Another favourite in the studio is the Bang It Up. Not the most creative of names, I'd admit, but it's pretty descriptive. The build revolves around getting the Bang Grenade, which is so fun. You can see that grenade in some of the gameplay during my preview video I made for the game. It's a good mod. It is a good mod. The Bang Grenade, that does a crazy amount of damage, but you can only carry 1 grenade at a time. This paired with the bullet-propelled grenade firearm, which drops a live grenade on crit hits, along with the exploding Grace traversal mod, which drops a live grenade when you do a skill landing, which is a ground bounce or ground slide. This means you get 2 ways to drop a free Bang Grenade. Most pair this with the Prison Pinata melee weapon, which drops grenade ammo on shield harvest kills, as a consistent way of getting grenade ammo. That was a lot of information, that was a lot of words. As you can tell, there is so much going on with the gear and the builds in this game. It is deep, and it gets deep. Derek, thank you for your short novel, Axel. And it was. Next question from Lachey. Is there a tier above Notorious? Notorious being the exotic type gear in the game. Back on with Axel. Thanks for the question. I assume by the all caps question that you are as passionate about loot as we are. The different rarities of gear in our game are common, uncommon, rare, epic, legendary, notorious, and infamy sets. Common to epic increase power in the number of possible augments available. Augments are the attributes you'll find on your gear and weapons. But legendary, notorious, and infamous is where we really turn up the heat. Every legendary item in the game has a unique augment that changes the way you play in some way, like the Cooler, a sniper rifle that freezes enemies on crit, or the Combo Meal, a firearm which gives you max combo on a successful critical counter, or my personal favourite, Bang Again. Everyone loves this grenade, a legendary grenade that only lets you carry 1 grenade at the time, but does 500 times more damage with a huge explosion. If I remember right, it does 500% more damage and increases the radius by 100%. Which is, it's good. It is a good mod. It's very fun. Infamy sets are brutal, powerful gear sets themed around some of the most iconic and threatening villains in the DC universe. These gain unique effects the more pieces of a set you have equipped and are designed to synergize with the legendary and notorious gear. Notorious gear are some of the rarest and, in my opinion, coolest items in the game, all themed after DC villains, both in how they look and their gameplay effects. They completely change the way you play, often requiring you to build around them to get the most out of their unique power. In endgame builds, you'll most likely be using a mix of legendary, notorious, and infamy sets to deck out your squad member, and each build will require that you play the game differently to get the most out of it. When you find the build that suits the character you want to play and the way you want to play that character, you can create some pretty outlandish combinations that I think feel great to play. One of the core design philosophies of the game that doesn't linearly increase in power and have a clear path to the optimal item, but to create items that have wild and game-changing effects that must be actively engaged with to find the most powerful strategies and outcomes for the toughest encounters. In that spirit, one of the biggest changes we've made over the last year is to remove gear score from the game. This change means that players who find, for example, a legendary weapon they just love early on in the game, they can use it without fear that they're shooting themselves in the foot, as it were, by not equipping a different gun with a higher gear score. The challenge then becomes exploring how you want to play the game and finding gear that synergizes with that, or leaning into changing the way you play the game to get the most out of the gear you have. A big part of our endgame is to theory craft which gear pieces that can synergize and how to construct builds. It's one thing that I'm really excited about when we launch the game, seeing what crazy builds you all come up with, and there will be some crazy builds. There's going to be some crazy stuff out there. Next up from Kwushu92, are there any plans past characters reaching max level, like a prestige system or something like that down the line? Again, back on with Axel, he is busy. A most excellent question. To start with, each member of the squad has their own unique talent trees, 3 for each character with 10 tiers within each tree. These provide powerful upgrades to different playstyles, as well as an interesting choice on how you want to play your squad members. That said, we really want to reward you if you keep playing the game past max level with a character. Once level 30 is reached with a squad member, you will unlock squad talents. This is a shared group of upgrades between all of your squad members, regardless of their level. There is a lot of these, and for the squad levels, they are actually infinite, and there is no real level cap. You can freely respec your squad talents as regular talents at almost any time. These also add yet another layer of customizability for different playstyles and builds, but where the talent tree provides you with more game and playstyle defining traits, the squad levels are more geared towards specialization with e.g. specific weapon types or game mechanics. Each squad member level counts towards your total squad level, and the higher the squad level, the more squad talents are available. For those of you who are especially astute, that means that if you level up all of your characters, you can get additional squad levels really quickly, and that of course also applies to the characters we add post-launch. But we're not supposed to talk about those today. Sorry. God, this is a lot of words. They have put a lot into their answers here. Okay, I think you've earned a brief break. Thanks for those fantastic answers. AOK8 asks, thanks for doing this, guys. So clearly movement will be a huge factor in the gameplay. What was the process like in balancing out each character so they feel different but not overpowered compared to the others? And then Johnny jumps in. You're absolutely right. Traversal is a huge part of the game, both in terms of gameplay and the squad personality. We wanted to give each squad member a traversal style that made them feel unique, powerful, and that makes sense for their character, but most importantly felt fun moment to moment. This is always at the forefront of the decisions we make. Does just traversing through the world feel fun? Does this feel good in your hands? For example, take King Shark. We knew early on that due to his size and weight, we really wanted this to come across in how he moved. When we started designing his moveset, we actually were using animal references, rhinoceros, elephant, to try and convey that sense of rampaging destructive force that builds with momentum. We believe his traversal really captures the sense of animalistic power. When you build up speed, smashing through a group of enemies, then leap high into the air and come crashing down onto some other unsuspecting enemies, it just feels good. Or Harley, who comes with an expectation of acrobatics and flowing movement. We wanted to add a twist to that with the bat drone and the grapple gun as a unique form of movement, and either a grudging nod of respect to Batman from her, or a middle finger depending on how you see it. Though particularly this was done so it could give her a traversal mechanic that supported swinging and grappling, without having to rely solely on having tall buildings or structures at all in order for Harley to get around. The ability to use the momentum from a grapple into a swing, into a dive, into an even faster swing, all without having to touch solid ground, feels super satisfying when you pull it off. And in terms of balancing them all, gameplay wise, we're in a really good place now where they feel powerful and excel at different things, which in turn we hope will match players' own different styles and preferences. For example, Deadshot's ability to create a vantage point in space by hovering makes sniping very efficient, whereas Boomer's instant dash makes him perfect for smash and grab style tactics, where we can get in, smash, then get out. Being able to seamlessly blend between traversal and combat moment to moment and making this feel impactful was always at the forefront of our decisions. One of the more challenging sides, however, is managing speed of the characters and how they work, not only with each other, but with the game itself. Harley, for the longest time, just wouldn't get in line with the rest, very much on brand as always. Having a very deep traversal system, she has a lot of room for skill expression in the hands of an experienced player. Unfortunately, the skill they wish to express was swinging so fast they break the game. Balancing this so all the characters were in line with each other for launch and year one, whilst also making them all feel fun, has been challenging, but feel they are all in a really good place. Even across the dev team, everyone has a different favourite and alt to use, which I feel really speaks to the work we've done to keep them all balanced. It's an ongoing debate as to who is the best, which is ridiculous. It's obviously Shark, lots of thumb down, there you go, have a thumb down. I'm with Axel, Deadshot clearly the best. Just saying, Deadshot. Gutsman90, can you swap characters at any time in game? Can you swap in both co-op and single player? Are the skill tree points shared between characters if you swap? If you have skill points and use it on another character, is it still available for the other character? Ian's jumped in. You can swap to a different squad member at any time out in combat. In a 2-player session, you each have a bot character you can switch to. In a 3-player session, the session owner gets the honor of having an additional bot they can switch to. While you're in a 4-player co-op session, you will have to travel to the Hall of Justice to switch. So you can still switch, you just have to go to the Hall of Justice first. You can also change your whole squad lineup no matter the numbers of player you have in the Hall of Justice. If you're playing single player, we have our psyched up feature, where a certain squad member will be psyched up for a specific mission. For example, Boomerang has a lot of history with Penguin, and when you recruit him for Waller, he's psyched up to get to see Pengo again. Of course, Penguin doesn't remember him at all. If you play the mission as a psyched up squad member, that character does extra damage and takes less damage and will also gain a massive XP boost from that mission. This is a great way to quickly level up different squad members to get a taste of how they play without worrying about a single squad member falling too far behind. Each time a character levels up, you get 1 skill point to spend on that character's talent tree. All squad members have separate XP levels and talent trees because we didn't want you to have to constantly manage each character's talent tree as soon as you switch to them because they have points left to spend. However, as you mentioned earlier, past level 30, when you unlock squad talents, those are shared between all squad members. Stormy Valentine? Will there be free roam? Will there be collectibles after you complete the game? There will be free roam. After Amanda Waller gives you permission to carry out your mission, the squad will have access to the entirety of Metropolis. Once the shackles are off, or on, not sure where I've gone now with this analogy, shackles off but brain bomb in, that's it. You can choose to explore the city however you wish. There will be side missions, enemies patrolling the city, iconic Metropolis landmarks, and plenty of hidden and not so hidden Easter eggs for you to find. We really want players to be able to enjoy banging around Metropolis causing havoc. Whether you choose to do anything productive or not is on you. There will also be plenty of collectibles. The Riddler has made his way to Metropolis. He's pissed he wasn't recruited for this mission and wants to prove his superior intellect. He's testing the squad both physically and mentally. He set up AR courses to test the prowess and traversal. If you get around the courses quick enough, you'll wind up Riddler and also be rewarded with some free outfit pieces for the squad members. Extra cosmetics, that's nice. Riddles are back to test your mental skills and your knowledge of the DCU. There are also trophies. It wouldn't be an Arkhamverse game without some Riddler trophies. Let's see, will the environment change as the seasons progress? Most definitely. Ooh. This is something we knew we wanted to do from the start, to be able to keep Metropolis evolving along with our players. And seeing how Brainiac has the ability to phase in portions of other worlds, interesting. Metropolis is a constantly shifting battlefield. And as your battle with Brainiac and the Justice League progresses, you can expect the city to change along with it, not only across the duration of the story, but post-launch also. This was very important for us in the dev team, to be able to create a city which players could experience, enjoy, learn all of the best routes through, and then be able to switch things up on them. So you'll have to make sure you get your bearings, as what you were previously using to navigate by may not be there next time. Next question, is it true that my squad of friends can select my character when I'm not playing, and if my squad takes my character with them, I can also get mission, loot, and experience points? Axel, woohoo, it's me again. It doesn't work quite like that. If anything, it's even better, as you're not just limited to friends, and that person can also be online while you get their character in your squad. We call this the social squad. With social squad, if you're playing alone and you're not planning on playing certain members of the squad, you can replace those squad members with those of other players. And as we mentioned before, they don't even have to be on your friends list. If you want, you can go to the leaderboard and find the best players in the world and get their characters in your squad. Or maybe you have a favorite streamer and want their character in your squad. That's pretty cool. So you can just go find the best people for those characters and just throw their kit on. It's nice, I like that. Social squad teammates will keep all of their gear, cosmetics, and talents that their original owners have equipped, just as if you had joined them in a co-op session. It's really interesting way of getting that feeling of playing with others, even though you're just chilling in a solo session. The original owners also get a kickback if their characters are used in someone else's squad. When they next jump in game, they will receive a small portion of resources and loot you've earned while playing. This is separate from rewards you earn for yourself, so it doesn't take away from the loot you've earned while playing. Alright, now for our last question, we have a big one. Prepare yourself, Axel. What will Endgame be like? This is a big question. This is where a lot of us min-maxers are going to spend a lot of our time. For the people who aren't just playing the story as a one and done, like myself, I like builds, I love endgame in games like this. This is a big deal, so let's see what Axel says. Oh, I've recorded so much stuff today, I'm losing my voice. I love this question because Endgame is one of those things I'm most excited about to share with you all, but I'm also worried that I'm going to get tackled by our community team for writing an essay on this topic, so I'll try and break it down into smaller segments. After you've completed the main story, Endgame is huge, constantly evolving and challenging experience for you to put your skills to the test. Our core philosophy for Endgame was essentially mastery. Mastery of your character, traversal, talents, enemy types, mission mechanics, and of course, your choice of build. And as the difficulty increases, you will have to find new builds to overcome the challenge. That's why we have 3 distinct tiers of infamy set in the endgame, all themed around an iconic DC character. For launch, that character is Bane, and his infamy sets are all themed around different ways of dominating your enemy and harnessing the chaos around you. We have a somewhat chaotic game, with a constantly changing battlefield with lots of things going on. The game is frantic and fast-paced, and we're purposefully made it to feel like the squad is always surrounded and in the middle of the chaos. A mastery of the game comes from you harnessing that chaos and using it as one of your strengths, turning the very thing Brainiac is throwing at you right back at him. Because our game is chaotic and because we wanted the endgame to lean into build construction as well as mastery of mechanics, we've made our endgame revolve around a core backbone of mission types that provide a more predictable experience and challenge. But that doesn't mean that Brainiac is just going to sit back and let you go head to head with his forces without throwing a spanner in the works, or that you know what's going to happen in each mission. Brainiac keeps evolving his forces through the endgame, and you'll have to adapt your builds to match this. There will be several mission types, from the snappier incursion missions, where the poor squad is sent into Brainiac's domain under the protection of a very fickle Prometheum shield that protects you from the Skull ship's tentacles, as well as the full force of Brainiac's army. The squad have to fight their way back through Brainiac's forces, often with the help of the support squad, to make it back to Metropolis. but once the mission is complete, the Promethean shield goes down and the squad has to leg it. Waller's really not doing the squad any favors here, and she seems intent on emphasizing the suicide in Suicide Mission. Then we have the more grand Killing Time missions, where the squad is battling an increasingly frantic horde of Brainiac's enemies, and they have to keep killing enemies to fuel the Promethean shield, because once it goes down, there is no hiding from the Skull ship's tentacles. As the difficulty levels go up, so do the rewards. And we have some quite frankly insane infamy sets and notorious items that are earned from the highest tier of Endgame. That, paired with the global leaderboards for solo, 2-player, 3-player, 4-player groups, means there is plenty of friendly competition to go around. And if you want some tips on how to build your characters, the leaderboard will be a good place to scout around. Derek, thank you Axel, and also not thank you. You've made Endgame too fun, and my boss keeps catching me leveling up my mastery level instead of working. Sorry, not sorry. And that is it. That is everything from the Q&A we had so far. I like this. This is quite a personal way of getting information out into the community. I'm hoping they do more of these. I'm sure they will. Right at the end, they also dropped a little bit of a surprise, which is this piece of concept art, which is pretty cool. I mean, I'm not sure if this is going to be a themed event or season 1. If I had to guess, I'd say this was something to do with season 1. Whether this is part of the ever-changing map they were talking about, I think that's pretty cool. Did he say anything with it? One last thing before we go, since we finished talking about our endgame, here's a tease for something that might come later. Yeah, so I'm assuming what we're looking at there is something from season 1, which is pretty cool. I'm hoping we're going to see this in the map. I like it. This is pretty cool. I look forward to hearing more. I hope to do more of these dev Q&As. I hope you learned something here today, and I hope you're hyped for the game. I know I am. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a like and subscribe. If you want to support the channel, you can do that on Patreon or become a channel member. You'll find links for those in the description below. Have a great day, and I'll catch you in the next one.